Welcome back to Petco Park, where Brian Lawrence battles Chris Benson and the New York Mets as the Padres try to make it 6 in a row. John Weisbarth along with Tim Flannery. And Flan, you know, Petco Park is less than 2 seasons old, but the land on which it was built has quite a long history. Before the first brick could be laid here, all that history literally had to be dug up. So what happened to all this stuff? I'm glad you asked. Jeannie Rodden is standing by with the answer.
John and Tim, part of the answer can be found right here in the Western Metal Building on the 3rd floor, right across from the concession stand. Right behind me here is a display case filled with about 150 artifacts that were found under the ballpark. Now, even though they were found several years ago, archaeologists are still sorting through them to find out who lived here and what they did. And believe me, there's a lot more where that came from.
What's inside these bags and on this table tell the story of life in the late 1800s in the East Village, where Petco stands today. As Alonzo Horton started to develop downtown and the railroad was built,
there was an enormous population boom here in the mid-1880s.
But oddly enough, this story starts in the bathroom, or what was then called the privy. These big holes in the ground were used as outhouses before indoor plumbing was invented.
They're found because they were buried deep underground and survived later construction. They provide an interesting look at domestic life in a lot of these households, sometimes the secret life in households.
The secret life because behind closed doors, not only was there privacy, but there was a big hole in the ground to throw away the evidence.
One of the things that we find a lot of in these kinds of features are liquor bottles and medicine bottles. There certainly seem to be a lot of drinking of alcohol.
The variety of bottles excavated reflects the popularity of every kind of alcohol.
Dr. Barnes, an essence of Jamaica ginger, and that was a medicinal item. And yes, high alcohol content. This is called a pumpkin seed flask, and it's a whiskey flask, and they made these small ones, and they were very, you could put it in your back pocket.
And beyond the prodigious drinking that was going on,
one of the most surprising things we found on the particular block in the area where the Park in the Park is now is evidence of opium smoking. This is a opium smoking lamp. Their function was to heat the opium, and the heated opium would put off fumes, and that's what would be smoked.
This area was filled with boarding houses where laborers, railroad workers, and longshoremen lived.
People lived right around heavy industry and the businesses that they worked in.
And there are many signs of family life.
We found a whole set of porcelain dolls, and these would have been sewn on to cloth bodies. Here are 2 other porcelain ones. This one is particularly fine. You would find lots of marbles from playthings of children. Here's a marble actually made from marble. Here's a beautiful agate made from a stone. We find quite a lot of these of kaolin or clay tobacco pipes.
Were they only smoking tobacco in those pipes?
As far as we know,
okay.
Yes. Sometimes you find coins as well. And I guess unless it's and they could fall out of pockets when people are using their privies, and I guess unless it's a $5 gold piece, nobody's going to go after it.
Good point. Yeah.
Here's a bone toothbrush with the bristles gone now, of course. Here is a reading glass. This is spittoon, and you could see that might be put in a parlor. It's often the most exciting thing is when we make discoveries about how people lived in the past that weren't known before.
So just under where Padres fans sit today are signs of a life that once was, long before baseball had a home in San Diego.
And they have blown it wide open.
Jeannie Rodden for Primetime Padres.